All right. Well,
How are you
welcome,
doing?
Jay. We may also be
Good.
joined by another flutist or two, a flutarian, so to speak.
Okay,
And
great.
then in an hour, and directly in an hour, we'll start our group improv game. So you're welcome to hang out with us and play some games or learn some of the games we
Okay.
do. So
Thank you.
for
I may
those,
have to stop for dinner. That's all.
it sounds like a good problem to have or a good reason to stop. Um, So, for those who are tuning in for the replay, I'm welcoming back Willow Marsh after another interview a couple of months ago before her wild Canadian flute trip. She's also known as the Wild Flute or the Wild Flutist. So, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about your trip and a little bit about your upcoming plans. Want to start with maybe what was the most exciting part of your trip?
Oh, there were so many moments. I've never. Canada's really big,
Okay,
um,
sure.
and but it's we all know that, but it's bigger than you think. It took us 2.5 days just to get out of Ontario. That's one of our provinces, one of the 12 provinces and territories. And so that's where I live. That's where Toronto is. It's kind of like it's considered sort of central east of Canada. Um, East of us are the Maritimes and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, and then west is the prairies. So it starts with Manitoba into Saskatchewan, Alberta, and then to BC. And so Alberta and BC has the beautiful Rockies, and in between there's these prairies and the interstitial things, and um, I had never been in any of these places. I've seen beautiful posters, like in the States, you have the national parks posters or kind of iconic views. Canada has the same thing. And so every time we'd look out the window, we'd feel like we were in another poster that we hadn't
Mm.
ever experienced. And that was really moving. Being able to see things with your own eyes and being in the spaces that you hear about, to actually be there is a completely different experience. And um, photographs don't do it justice.
Mm.
Paintings can do a little bit better. I tried to express some of that with flute playing while I was in some of the cars and whatnot, and it was pretty moving. But even more moving was actually connecting with the people on a train. We created a community very, very quickly, and it was actually kind of brought home to me the magic of music and why we do this. It actually is the center point around which we can and do create community. I played 3 times on board in different areas of the train, and they were sort of sectioned off into somewhat not quite class system, but there's a pricing scheme, and so there's the people in coach, and then there was the people who were in the sleeper class, and then there was a another class that had different privileges, and so we played in each one of those. So we were, aside from the
Mm.
staff, the only ones playing and getting to know people across the entire train. And people were coming back to hear me play again a second time and a third time, because some places I played 3 times because I was there for 3.5 days. And that's how long it took just to get from Toronto to Calgary. There's so much more of the country to see, and we were only going across the top of the Great Lakes. There's so much more north of where the train was. It's really astounding how big Canada is. Our whole ecosystem as musicians, as we travel, is very different from that in the U.S. Because in the
Mm.
U.S., you've got lots of towns around you. You can travel for a couple of hours in any direction, and you might have different places that you can play. Canada, you drive 2 hours, and you're either still in Toronto, or there might be another town another hour away. So, um, just lots of big spaces. But yeah, it was the creating community, because then we'd get off at a couple of platforms. We'd have a 1 hour layover, and everybody would come up to me and say, "Hi, I really liked what you played. Thank you for playing. You made my trip." And that it was really quite stark how, not stark, just um, it impressed upon me that music actually means something. And as
Mm.
musicians, we're stuck in our practice rooms playing for ourselves, or even as, not just professionals, but community members and people who play for the love of it. We tend to play a little bit on our own and not really out there, but it really makes a difference in people's lives. And that was kind of nice to experience too.
Wow. It's
I'm really sensing this contrast when you're talking about the experience so far between the massiveness of the country that you're traveling through and the strength or deepness or depth of the connections you're making with these people who happen to be in the same place at the same time in the same country with you. And music is the thing that got you back seeing the same faces night after night, or at least for the first couple of nights of the trip. Now, I guess I didn't give very much of an introduction before we jumped into the favorite parts of the trip, but I guess some of our viewers may have gathered by now that you're not only a Canadian musician, but you also want to promote Canadian musicians. They probably don't know that you've had some pieces commissioned that were perhaps inspired by a couple of places you visited on this journey, but also that I'm inspired not only by that, but by hearing a little bit about your improvisation story. I think that many of the members of the Flutarians group will identify with your story in the sense of going from feeling like, oh, I don't know what improvisation is, where do I start, to now it's been a part of your professional journey, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
And so I would be curious to hear more about maybe some little stories of ways you connected with people or places on the trip. Like one of my favorite things about improvising is having my eyes free to connect with the audience and maybe sometimes do something musical that reflects what their experience is. For example, if there's a bouncing baby boy, I might play some bouncing baby notes or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I do have, we did take video. So this was really such an epic project, and there are so many moving pieces, and I sometimes forget to share just really all these bits and pieces. So do you want me to give it a little bit of a rundown? My project is called Flute in the Wild, and I commission new pieces involving flute from Canadian composers, and I asked them to write about their favorite Canadian wild space. So the first one were friends who agreed to write for me because it was a trial project. And there were some beautiful places that were written, mostly in Ontario, one in Newfoundland, which is on the East Coast. And my job as a performer and connecting with composers in the musical ecosystem that we are in is to give them commercial recordings that they can use to amplify their careers and to also promote Canadian writing and voices around the world and get some of these pieces played by other people other than me. Because I am not the be-all and end-all voice of it. I'm just putting it out there because it's fun to record and they wrote for me, but I want other people to play it too. And from the first album, I did get a couple of pieces played internationally, one by the principals of the Pittsburgh Symphony. Played one of the pieces for flute, bassoon, and harp. And it's a really lovely piece by Elizabeth Rom. And so I'm doing my job, and I'm also training, giving them some information about making sure they register for their rights and doing my job that way rather than I can't really pay them what the commission fees that they really are due. But there's also this business side and this other piece that I'm investing in with the recordings and then traveling with them. The first one I took to the National Flute Association, their 50th anniversary. And the second one I took to Calgary because the second album, I asked Western Canadian composers to write about their Western Canadian favorite wild spaces. And I had never been there. And I concocted a crazy idea that, hey, how do I get out west to premiere some of these pieces? And I discovered that there was a artist on board program with our national passenger rail system called Via Rail. And so I applied and I was accepted. And so in return for travel, I play 3 times a day on board. So that's how all that happened, is just trying to get out west.
Wow.
So, right. So you asked me a question about being inspired. So the first stop, one of the pieces was the first composers who approached me, who actually reached out to me saying, hey, I want to do this. Do you have room for me to do this part? So people are starting to reach out to me because I'm promoting it and whatever. And so this composer from Edmonton, Alberta, in the sort of prairies area, asked to write a piece. And And so I thought, well, let's go west and see if we can find other people and other composers. And so there's a flutist, Sean Clark, who wrote a number of pieces. He's teaching in Ottawa right now in Ontario, but he's from Calgary, Alberta, and wrote about the foothills in Calgary. So there I was mapping out, okay, so I can get to Jasper. And so that first composer, Joseph Lai, wrote about Jasper. And there was a massive fire 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago that burnt almost all the trees off, like all the iconic pictures that people see of Jasper, Alberta, of the Rockies. All those trees are gone, and a number of buildings were also lost, and there were a number of smaller towns in the area were lost. But it was really quite an iconic place that people come from all over the world to visit, and it made the news. And it was really devastating. He spent a lot of time there, and it was a very special place to him. So the first movement of his piece is called Ablaze, and it's very fast, and there's a lot of notes. And so I wanted to play in Jasper and to be inspired, stand in the places that he really loved, and see how I felt and what came out of me when I stood there. And so we got that on film. And then Sean Clark wrote a piece about in the foothills of Calgary, and we also improvised in that space too. So that was kind of the plan, to get off at Jasper, and Joseph Lai actually came and picked us up, and we drove down. We went to a number of little iconic places and just played in wild spaces. And we recorded that and cut it very quickly, and showed some of that footage at the concert at the end of that week.
Cool. I'm curious if you had any wildlife interactions potentially in your time out in the wild.
No animals, I don't think. No. Oh, I lie. I did, and I even posted about it on Instagram. I forgot. So we were along the Icefields highway, which runs through the Rockies on the way from Jasper to Banff, Alberta. And so I'm seeing mountains. I have never seen these mountains. So I'm craning my neck from a cramped back seat, just like looking at everything, just, wowed every time, like there was a turn, there was more mountains, and more. It was just, I've never seen anything that big and that tall, because I'm from the East Coast in Ontario. So that was pretty impressive. And then so we stopped for a little bit just to get a break. And I was just sitting there. I wasn't playing. But I was hearing some calls, and we were we heard one sort of raven was chirping, and I love ravens. And then one of my one of the people playing is actually Ricky, my drummer, who came with me, was throwing out some corn chips, some little crunchy corn, things, which I feel badly, because we really shouldn't be feeding them that. I feel badly outing them. But anyway, so we tossed them out, and so this one raven was eating it, and then it suddenly made a call that sounded like it was calling something in, and then there was a response. A few, a couple miles away, I could hear, a response, and then it came closer. Then all of a sudden there were two of them, and they kept talking at me like, "More, please." And so I had this entire conversation and call and response with the ravens. And unfortunately, my flute was packed deep in the car, or else I might have gotten it out. So I'm sorry I don't have anything like that.
I wonder how many minutes it was between that time and when you played your flute, because they could probably hear your flute.
They might, yes, yeah. I didn't. That wasn't one of the stops, because it was the travel
Far.
was quite far. Yeah, we did have. There were some birds in the trees, because don't forget, it was all burned, so there was no place for wildlife to actually live and make their home. It was all just these black sticks sticking up all over the mountains. So that was a devastating part to see, and but we also were starting to see some new growth, so with a little bit of hope. So what we were experiencing was this bleakness that we felt, and sadness, and then a new hope, and this hopeful stuff, and I think that came out in what we played. But really, the only creatures that were starting to come back were the birds. And so I did play a little bit. I did a bit of a call and response with a couple of birds. I recall doing that. But yeah, there wasn't anything else. It was like burnt to the ground. So that was pretty interesting to see. I'd never been to a wildfire space. So I do have that video a little bit.
I haven't seen that one yet. I look forward to seeing it. I'll try and share it in the comments after this.
Okay. Because I can play a little bit of it, but if you want.
Yeah, if you have it. I think maybe I need to do the
Share screen.
allow screen sharing if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure to click the share sound as well,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me. Yeah.
I have a document in the resources here that's 30 little improv lessons, and they're just little one sentence sort of things to start with. And one of them is listen to the birds around you and see if you can call back to them or learn their songs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Allowed to share screen. What am I doing? Am I sharing right now?
I don't see it yet.
Oh, wait. Okay, wait. There we go.
I hear the sound of something like a drum, but not like it's coming through the computer.
Right now. No, there shouldn't be anything playing right now. Okay. Okay. Share this window. Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right. Now I can see it.
Okay. It never asked me to share sound.
I'll give you the thumbs up when I can hear the sound.
Well, I'm not playing anything just yet. I want to try and. Is that something I can? Okay. Let's see. Do you hear birds?
No, not yet.
Okay.
You can end the screen share and start it again. I think there will be a little in the bottom right. There's a little toggle switch for in the school call somewhere right now. There will be a little thing that says, I guess, end screen share, and then restart it. Yeah, we'll see if that works. We'll see if you can find the toggle on the bottom right.
Am I still sharing?
No, not now.
Okay. Your voice is doing that weird thing again.
I hear the sound of, it sounds like water falling on a drum.
Okay, is it still sharing?
It's not sharing yet.
Okay. I don't get any options. It's just share this window or not. Okay.
Is there, you could try the share the whole screen, and do you see a toggle with that one?
Okay, so you sound like the chipmunks right now. I don't know why.
I'd be Julie and Nancy give me a thumbs up if I sound like a chipmunk to y'all too, or thumbs down if I don't. Sherry thinks I sound normal. Julie thinks I sound normal.
Hey, it's not the headphones.
Is it? Okay. That's good, I guess.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to go and come back in.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Just turn it off and turn it on again. That's the best solution for a lot of these technological things usually, right? So hope y'all have been making some recordings, listening to your recordings. Sometimes I feel like my brain and a certain song I'll be working on, I need to turn it off and turn it on again. Oh, no. Welcome back. I still sound like a chipmunk to you. You can still try the screen share and see if when you share the window, let's see, we have the option between Chrome tab, window. Yeah, I see it at the very bottom, just above the cancel button. There's a little tab that says also share audio outputs or tab audio.
Okay. I'm still getting, you now sound like the ants.
Like an ant, too. Maybe y'all should be thinking of what is the key of the day going to be for improv games when we start in another half hour or so. Maybe I'll flip a coin or roll a dice to see who wins. I heard from my neighbor this morning who just returned from traveling to Maine that he got to hear some loons there. Do I sound loony?
So I need to join from Chrome instead of Safari, but I don't have my credentials to join for that, and so there's a whole password thing. So
Take your time.
A second.
We can play an improv game while you do your login. Let's do a round of the chromatic guess it game. If y'all have your flutes ready to go, I'm going to turn on my what's it called, the hi-fi audio. Okay, Sherry, see if you can guess this note.
F.
That's a F. That's right. Want to choose a random note, and maybe Julie, if she's actually there, she can discover it. And Julie, are you there, or maybe she's listening in another room? I can
She's
discover
getting
it.
her flute.
I bet that appears to be what Nancy's doing too. I'll try and do a slow to fast. Sherry, how about you choose a new note and I'll discover it. It's a G sharp or A flat. So I'll play another random note. See if you can discover it starting fast and then slowing down like a train arriving into a train station as you arrive at the unison. That's right.
F.
High F. Nice job slowing your momentum down. I feel like sometimes when we play music that certain phrases have a certain weightiness to them or massiveness that requires a little bit more what's the right word for the style of playing or the tone of playing? A little bit more stretched. All right, Jay's back with us. Let's see. Do I still sound like I'm in a tunnel or something? Okay. Go ahead and turn on your audio, and I'm allowing the screen sharing. We played a little bit of a round of the chromatic guess it game, which I think is the best way to save yourself when you play a note that sounds to you like it's too dissonant or more dissonant than you'd planned because maybe it's outside of the key signature. There you are.
Hello.
Cool, I can hear you now.
Oh my goodness. It disallowed. Anyway, I'm back. Oh, that's fun. Okay, we lost some people. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be back.
Okay.
Although I hear that when the weather gets bad, where Julia is, that the internet goes out.
Oh no. Okay, so I'm going to show this video now. Do you feel okay with that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, there we go. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Cool, I can hear it. Thanks for sharing. Nancy and Sherry, feel free to come off mute and share anything that
So
you want
you'll
to
notice I
ask.
was playing with a little bit of I don't know how do I stop sharing? Please stop. Oh, press that button. Okay. Is it done now? No.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. I was playing with my looper, so that was kind of fun. So that gave me some more things. That's what I was doing with my feet. And in order to play in wild spaces, I thought this might be interesting. Is that I got you need to plug the looper in, right? And so I got a really ultra small portable generator, and it's battery operated. It's really quiet. And I'm going to show it to you because I carried it on the train in an Altieri flute bag.
Okay.
And because the train people weren't exactly sure how big it would be, and so they didn't really officially let me have my looper and all my stuff, but I brought it on board anyway because I needed it to play in wild spaces. And then so this is all it is. It's very small, it's very portable, and it can play, especially with a looper and other small electronics, it can last for hours. And so I brought that along with my looper into these wild spaces, and it worked, and on the train.
Wow. Yeah, I was noticing some layers there. I noticed that was an alto flute, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Trevor James Love Flutes artist, so I wanted to do that in Jasper.
That's what I was remembering. I was looking at that and wondering if it was a TJ, a Trevor
It was.
James.
It's the copper one because it's light. It's the same weight as my flute.
Looks great out there in the mountains. Your hair looks very vibrant in the video. I found myself thinking about the technology of like, oh, do you need a battery supply? How is this happening? And then also the question that I found myself thinking at the end was, I wonder how you feel about your role as a flutist in this remote place. I mean, it's I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about that myself when I'm out in these places. Like, what is my place in this world? What is my music really doing? What was it like for you being there?
It was a pretty popular sort of lookoff. It was a lookout for Moline Canyon Lookout, and that was one of the movements of Joseph's piece. There's Jasper itself, and then Moline Canyon, and the other one is Mount Edith Cavell. And we didn't have access to either of these places because they were still not safe from the fire, which was an interesting story. So playing at this lookout, there was like all kinds of buses and people coming in and out and whatever, and some people were stopping and videotaping me playing with, and so there was a bit of flow, and so I don't know. I think anytime that we bring something expressive, into a space, I think in a way there's a term called activating spaces that a lot of cities use because they want people to come in and bring arts into either like an old space that's being maintained, or like any sort of museum spaces or green spaces. Activating it with human art, I think, has always been something that they recognize as being important. I think we forget that bringing art into these spaces is actually really important and has a role. So playing on the train, activating a space where people are just traveling and they suddenly feel uplifted. Hey, I get this free concert, and like while I'm going for a coffee and watching the beautiful landscape go by, everybody's response to me bringing music out was really positive. And actually, last Wednesday, I'm home now, of course, in Toronto, and we went out. I have somebody sort of doing some social media for me, and so they wanted, about being the wild flute in spaces. And so I've been going around Toronto improvising or just playing a couple of fun, licks that are traditionally, like recognizable Canadian tunes or some other added things. And so I was going around the city and in a fancy sparkly get up and carrying my flute and just getting on and off like the subway and just bringing my flute and playing. And even there, when people are really not expecting anything like that, nobody was upset by it, not even the pigeons. So
Good point.
Right? And so I think I've been doing this reaffirms my choice to be an artist and to share music with people.
Yeah. Just remembering a story from another flutist who recently told me that when she was playing in a national park sort of place, that she felt like someone was going to come up and say, like, why, like, quit playing that flute, why are you playing that flute, but
Yeah.
she only got compliments. And I think so many of us experience that, even professionals. There's this voice of the inner critic in our head who's like, somebody's going to be, I don't know, what's the worst that could happen? They're trying to take a nap and you're disrupting their nap. I mean,
Oh
somebody's
yeah.
gonna hate this and come tell you to stop. I have had to be in the practice of asking myself, what is the actual worst possible outcome? And usually it's not as bad as it seems at first. So
Right. I guess that probably speaks to a lot of people who are starting to, play on their own music and improvising and just, expressing their own creativity, especially as flute players. There's so much in the way we are trained that kind of removes a little bit of that creativity out for us, you know. If you're going through sort of formal training, I think even, amateurs who are taking lessons, or just using the books that are out there for their own self-learning, there's a little bit of the all technical side and not as much on the you get to express something because you're a human, therefore you are an artist. There's this line that we tend to put on, especially Western countries, where if we're not professional level that we've imagined in our minds, or we can't make money at it, or it can't be monetized or capitalized on, then it's not worthy of existing. A little bit of that capitalist thing. And I think any expression, I think, is worthy of being out there. And if we can embrace that, then a lot of that worry about, oh, do I sound bad? Is someone going to make me stop? Do they not like it? That goes away because people really embrace other people expressing themselves.
yeah, I'm wondering if um, you improvised some when you were there in the Jasper area. That piece you just shared with us in the video, that's composed though, right? Or does it have an
No,
element of improvisation throughout?
100% improvised on the spot as you were watching it.
Okay, I misunderstood. That's great though. I'm curious to hear what your experience as a artist was like. Did you feel some sense of connection with the ecosystem around you?
Yeah, the reason I wanted to share that video is because you could see me looking around. It's like I've turned like right away from the camera, and people are going like that. Just turning your back to the people looking at you. I was like, yeah, because I was in the space. I was looking at because where behind the camera I was quite close to some more mountains, and all those trees, all those blackened trees that we got some B-roll of, it all looked like that, or like flat matchsticks, because the event winds were so strong that all the trees were flattened, and it looks like a field of matchsticks. And so I was just looking around, taking it in, because that was I'd just gotten off the train like 2 hours before, having opened my window at 5 in the morning, looking out, and I saw my first piece of the Rockies ever in my life, and that was profound. And then walking around Jasper and really experiencing the land, but it was all those blackened sticks. That's all I saw. Was just, it looked like, recently shaved heads. Like all the little hairs were standing up. And I had never been there before, so I didn't know what it looked like, what it might have looked like, prior to the fire. But when we went to Banff, similar sort of mountain range, all it was so green, and then there were rocks, and then the white tips of the mountains. And that's when I realized like how stark it was, that there was very little greenery in this beautiful iconic place. And but I was still moved by all the charred remains and the charred ground, and the sticks that were standing up, that you know used to be full beautiful pine trees. And so I was looking around, just trying to um, absorb that and have that, and that's what was coming out. I was taking that in and putting it right out into my instrument live as you were watching it. And towards the end of that, I needed to stop because the drumming, like Ricky was also responding to the space as well, and that's my drummer, and and he started to do something. He was noticing all the green growth and the hopeful stuff, and so I let him end it with a solo. It was really exuberant sort of drumming and whatever, and so that's what it moved into, and it was quite moving. You see me sort of put down my alto flute, and I go to pick up my flute, and I go to play something, like, no, yes, no. You can see me like really undecided, like, do I want to play? I don't know. And that was like, so it's really purely in the moment of what I was experiencing.
I think that the environment, the living beings in the environment interact or react more than we could ever know. I'm remembering actually that I started my day this morning with a video a friend sent me of some sort of flying insect outside of this screen porch, and you see when they sing, the insects move as if like as if they are directly related, reacting to the voice. They clearly are.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it was so cool to start my day in this case with a sense of wonder about the natural world, about how we're connected through sound. Our set there, this family's sound waves were connecting them to this whole community of gossamer flies or whatever they were. I'm looking forward to listening in quietness to the recording you just shared and contemplating which elements of the environment you were expressing musically. It reminds me of a game we play in improv games called Animal Adjectives, where usually the way we do it is that whoever is on the microphone chooses between two contrasting animals and adjectives, like the leaping lizard and the cawing crow, right? And then they play an improvisation evoking one of those creatures, and then we as the audience try and guess which one it was that they were inspired by or evoking. And it's a fun little animals game for us to play, but it's a real technique that I use when I'm improvising. For example, if I were at a scenic outlook improvising with my flute, I might be inspired by the crow I see on the other side of the valley, or I might be inspired by the dandelion growing at my feet, and use those visual and auditory elements, I guess, to inspire what am I going to play next? How am I going to choose what to play?
I talk about creativity quite a bit. I do a master class actually for and I have versions for different instruments. I've got one for flutes, and I have done them for oboes, so I can do mixed musicians. About creativity, I talk a little bit about adding some electronics and how to not be afraid of that. But I also talk about my cross cross discipline inspiration, where if I'm having trouble coming up with an idea, I will paint something or I'll write something, and I use different artistic expressions to get me past some blocks that I have, or just to fuel, kind of like prompts. And I actually came up with a game, and it's somewhat similar, and I'd like to actually share it with you guys. Oh God, we're going to do this again. I call it Creativity Fuel for those, because I do it for non-musicians too. I've got a bunch of different versions. I've done it several times at a festival, and so I do it outside, and we all paint and get messy, and it's super fun. But I have people doodle while I'm talking to them and telling them about creativity. Just it's breaking through. It's like for people who don't feel that they're creative at all. And I have them doodle while I'm talking, and then I have them dance their doodle, and then I have them pick a sound or a color that expresses that, and I pick words, and then we create poetry out of the whole thing, and then we have this big mural, and people seem to come out of there feeling a little less like they're not creative, because we really all are. But it started with this Flute Fuel one, which I think I can share. Here we go. All right. So do you see can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and I can see it now.
Okay, great. So there's so these are creativity boosters. So it's kind of like a board game, and we've got note names across the top and chords down the bottom, and a bunch of different um, little squares where you land on that square, or there's a bunch of different ways to play with this board game. And it's you've got horizontal and vertical coordinates that you can use as well, or you can just throw a pebble on it. And I've got some blank spaces to create your own prompts. And so I've got color play, record it, wild sounds, feeling sounds. So it's all about, especially for musicians. So here are my gameplay ideas. So what do colors sound like to you? Basically all these prompts that you just described to me, right? Cool colors, warm colors, two colors swirled together. Look around, pick a color in your around you, or pull your favorite color, pull a crayon out of a box and play that. There's a recording, because I want to encourage people to record themselves and have some fun with playing, duets with themselves, that kind of thing. I said a found sound, just like you're playing your birds and whatever. So that's playing wild sounds. There's all kinds of stuff. And then the different games you can play. You can play two 7-sided dice, one for notes and one for chords. And then, so that gives you your coordinates to play with for randomizing your daily practice. You can write them down, do a pebble toss. You can do snakes and ladders and play on your own or play with a friend. You can do a battle of the bands. That's a multiplayer. So you do it like Battleship, but in reverse. You want your instrument to get hit, so you can lay out your instrument on the board game, and people call out a coordinate, and you do whatever is underneath that thing. And so I actually created a bunch of flutes that fit on the board game, and you can play with a friend and do it's like Battleship, but it's Battle of the Bands. So that game is a lot of fun, and I'd be happy to offer it to the school community if you would like it.
Yeah, I'll be happy to host it. I love that you have record it on there. I would say that probably the single most important driving factor of my rapid improvement in improvising has been listening to my recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find that it helped you?
Well, first, it helped me negotiate with my inner critic, who at first was highly active and just said, "You suck," basically.
Right.
And all the variations of it. And then after hearing from them 100 or 1,000 or more times, I started hearing the other voices that were like my best flute teacher or favorite flute teacher, Jennifer Keeney, or some of the other music mentors in my life who were like, "Hey, that was really good." Or I have my biggest fan, Grandma Wheeler. She's like, "Good job. No matter what, you're probably... chances are you're the best flutist in the room."
Exactly. Exactly.
So listening to my recordings, I'll take like a sticky note or something and draw a line down the middle and literally do a column of things that I liked and a column of things that I didn't like so much and might want to do differently. And that helped me start noticing that I was actually doing a good job a lot of the time, and that to do that more, and just to get super specific about the stuff I didn't like. Like at second number 16, that C was flat. Make sure that note has a beautiful ending to the note. Because it's the teeny tiny stuff that makes the difference between sounding like an amateur and sounding like a professional, right?
And also zeroing in on specific things becomes problems you can actually solve, as opposed to the general, "This was terrible," and that doesn't actually give your mind tools to the problem to solve, right? It doesn't give you the information.
Thank you, Jay, for saying that so eloquently. Yeah, it goes from being like Armageddon to like there's a spider in the house.
Right, exactly.
Like we can solve this.
Yeah, it's we tend to catastrophize, especially because we're trained to listen to ourselves critically, and that's actually a good skill, because we learn resilience, right? When we actually listen to ourselves and go, "Oh, I liked that, but let me do this better." So I don't know if people who haven't gone through sort of advanced training get to this point, because I think you might still get stuck because you may not be practicing as much, or not seeing the results of your work because you're not being challenged to perform perhaps as much. But I know that most of the people I play with, my colleagues, we look forward to practicing and finding something that we need to work on. It's actually exciting. It's like, oh, I get to work on something. It's so rather than so. I think that's a resilience piece that eventually you learn, hopefully, and to enjoy finding something to work on and to improve. Not that you've perfected everything else, but it becomes a game of hide and seek. You know, where can I improve? It's like, oh, that, because then you have like you've improved another tool that you can use to express yourself, and you have more colors in your paint palette, if you will, right, as you solve problems. And so it can be exciting if you need a little bit of help getting to a place of knowing how to solve those problems. That's where having, you know, some teaching and some guidance can do that. But also, I mean, recording yourself also is one of those tools. So how do I fix that problem? But it's getting yourself past the, oh, I'm terrible, I don't want to hear myself, to, oh, I get to hear the problems. Like, okay, I can fix that. I know what that problem is. These things happen, you know, and that comes from playing a lot and being in performance and not dying at the end of it. So it was like, oh, I'm not dead. That's great. I can keep playing. So, but that's something I encourage people to try and find in terms of approaching practice. You know.
Yeah. Flutarians in the audience, feel free to jump in here and ask any questions or share any comments. I'm sure that some of this stuff is familiar to your own improv journey as well.
I have a question. First of all, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So when you do the looper, what do you use for a microphone?
Oh, I have a headset microphone. It's a DPA, so it goes around my ears because I play a bunch of different instruments whenever I'm performing. And I do some improvisation quite frequently, actually. I play with something called Spark Jam, and we play for ecstatic dancers. And it's 90 minutes of improvising with other people where we take turns playing with each other, being inspired by each other, and trying to create an experience for the dancers as well. And that's been an extraordinary experience. Again, community building, and you really feel connected to everybody in the room. It's really quite profound. So because of that, I add all of my instruments. Sometimes I'll do some vocalizing. It's great for capturing sound. As a vocal mic, like if I'm going to be present, I actually have another microphone, a Shure microphone that I for actual singing, because my band has made me start singing. So if you want to, like, the imposter, I know the imposter syndrome kind of comes out in me, so it never doesn't truly go away, but you do get a little bit more brave if you're performing.
Public service announcement: learning how to sing is like an added bonus that comes along with learning to play the flute. You just have to get over the imposter syndrome sooner or later.
Exactly. So that's been fun. So so I use that microphone so I can change instruments very quickly. But I do have other microphones.
Cool. I'll look forward to finding the exact link for that one. I'll share it in the Flutarian school. Yeah. Sounds like I need to invest in one.
It transmutes probably the best sound for flute. Not everybody uses them, because if they just play flute, they might have a clip on, because there's certain things that it can feed back, because it's a particular kind of very sensitive microphone. It's the one that dancers use when they're doing musicals and whatnot. But I find that because we work so hard on our sound as flute players, that was one of the first pieces of gear that I bought. Is a really, really nice microphone. It comes with issues, but like I said, in terms of feedback, but the sound is absolutely spot on, but it's not cheap. just be aware. But in terms of the color and whatever, you could hear that was pretty much what I sound like, and that was just a feed from that was going into the looper, and the looper was going out to a speaker that I had going, and a camera was picking it up. So it went through a number of iterations, but it was really pretty good.
Great. Well, it looks and sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very excited for the new pieces that were written for me. I actually had two professionals from Calgary perform Joseph Lye's piece, which is I recorded it with a colleague in Toronto. But again, I wanted to connect the composers to their ecosystem and performers to their ecosystem. And so I had the principal flutist of the Calgary Philharmonic and her partner in teaching. She teaches at Mount Royal in Calgary, and they played his piece. And so he got to hear not just me playing it with the recording, but he got to hear two colleagues that he respected play his piece. And for a composer, that was pretty important. The other thing, I was encouraged to write my own piece, which I had never
Well,
done.
I was just thinking, tell us what's next. So tell us more.
Well, I actually wrote a piece for this album recording. So it's been a bit slow. I was hoping to release it at this Calgary performance, but it's going to be we've had some technical challenges, and so I'm still going to be releasing probably end of September, early October, in one of the pieces. But I'm going to release my piece sooner, so that's going to be streaming on Bandcamp sometime soon. And I wrote a piece for people, for my flute colleagues, if they wanted to get sort of into playing with pedals and playing with electronics and whatnot. So I wrote 4 movements that were elementally derived, but also based in landscape. So I had breeze for air and smoke for fire, and I had rain for water and horizon for earth. And these were all inspired by vistas that I actually ended up going through on the train. So it came full circle. But I wrote a piece for solo flute with these technologies, but you can also add in your own backing tracks or found sound if you wanted to add to it. So there's a lot of improvisational elements also written into the piece, where there's an element. I give you a little scale element to play and what pedals to trigger or not, and you just play around with those notes. And so there's lots of improvisation built into my pieces.
Sounds like a good way for perhaps someone who's used to being in the page to dip their toe into the place where you start making decisions about what you're going to play next, and not just having the composer write it all out for you.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to encourage people to be creative. I wanted them to play with a little bit of technology, but in a very easy way, because I give very basic pedal uses, and they don't have to have the same setup that I do. They can go and rent or find whatever things they have on hand, and it can be their own piece. And so my recording is my version of it, and people can have their own version. So.
Well, if our listeners want to find out more about this, shall they join your mailing list? Is that the plan?
I would love that, yes. And so I do have a link. I'll share that link with you. But if you go to fluteinthewild.com, there's a link right at the top to join my mailing list, and you'll get all the updates as soon as everything is released.
Cool.
And if you send me a note, and I can. So right now you're getting a free track from my band, Aphrodite Unbound. That's with Ricky and a couple of other people. We wrote a track that's just for people who go to our mailing list. And again, we kind of improvise this piece together, and it's about spring and new beginnings, and it's called Prima, and it's flute and percussion. So it's only available to people who join our list.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left until it's the top of the hour. Any other exciting or unexpected stories from the trip you care to share with us?
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember. There's so many. Well, what was really funny, there were a number of people who were traveling across, taking the train, who were from away and used that to get to know Canada. So there was one woman from Finland, we had lunch with her a couple times, because you get sat with different people at lunchtime. There's a table of 4, and so you end up chatting with people or not. Some people aren't very chatty, but most of the time we met some really interesting people. There's one woman from Finland. She, when we got off at Jasper, apparently she got off too, but we didn't know that. But about an hour away, we ended up in Athabasca Falls, which is another gorgeous place, and I did a little bit of playing there too. But we ran into her. Just like she just happened to be amongst the people coming to see the falls, and so that was really kind of nice to see. Like that really emphasized the community that we had built in there. and and there was a couple of firefighters who are actually work for the UN. They're disaster recovery professionals, and they were heading up they're taking a plane north of where they had gotten off, I think at Edmonton, because there's no road. There's only an ice road. There's no road to these communities except by plane or in the wintertime. But of course, their roads are getting those times are getting shorter and shorter because the ice doesn't stay around as long because of climate change and whatever. But they were going up there to help teach these people how to fight wildfires that come up and give them disaster recovery stuff. And so these guys were really the real heroes. And they volunteer their time all over the world to do that for people. So that was really inspiring. And I think Ricky and I were inspired by their story. I think there's going to be some music coming out about that sometime soon.
Different breed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of insight into your recent trip and upcoming music. I look forward to hearing more in the near future. And
thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you and getting to know your community, especially the improvisation, because I've been doing that just for a few years, not very long, and I'm really enjoying it. So I encourage everybody to keep going.
Yeah, let out that unique flute voice.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to end this recording here, and then we'll start improv games. You're welcome to hang out with us, and we'll do that for about an hour.
Okay, good luck.
I guess
I'm gonna